Have you ever looked around your house and felt irritated before the day even started? Like nothing dramatic happened yet, but you already felt behind, already felt tense, already felt like the day was asking you something before it even began. Because sometimes that feeling is not just in your head. Sometimes that feeling is the environment screaming for your attention. I think a lot of people know this feeling, even if they don't have the words for it. You wake up, you see the counter, the laundry, the pile, the corner, the chair with things on it, the room that still needs your attention. And all of it starts speaking at once. Do this, put that away. You still have not handled this. That needs your attention. You forgot about that. And now, before you even started your day, part of your energy has already been pulled. Because the home is not passive. It affects your mood, your energy, your focus, your sense of control, your willingness to begin. And that matters a lot more than people think. Because clutter is not always just a visual problem. It is a mental and emotional problem as well. It is repeated signals of incompletion, repeated signals of responsibility, repeated signals that something still needs your attention. And every unfinished thing can start to act like one open tab in your brain. That is why certain spaces make you feel tired, guilty, avoidant, or strangely irritated, almost on contact. Not because you're weak, not because you're dramatic, and not because you need to just try harder. Because every environment creates friction, and friction changes how a person moves. It changes how calmly they think, how easily they start, how much shame they feel, how much mental energy gets wasted before they even start the actual task. Sometimes what feels like a discipline problem is actually an environment problem. That is the line I actually want you to understand. Because when a space feels chaotic, overloaded, unfinished, or constantly asking something from you, it can keep you in reaction mode. Not always in a dramatic, obvious way. Sometimes it's just a glance at a mess, a little stab of guilt, a little more mental drag, a little less ease, a little less patience, a little more avoidance. And after a while, that adds up. Because now you're not just living in your home, you're reacting to it. You're walking past things that drain you, feeling things nag at you, feeling the heavy weight of unfinished tasks before you even started your day. And that affects the self. It affects how grounded you feel, how capable you feel, how calm you feel, how much dignity you feel inside yourself. Because there's a difference between a home that supports you and a home that keeps you fraying. I think that is a reason so many people feel more irritated at home than they want to feel, more scattered than they want to feel, more ashamed than they want to feel. Not always because they're failing, but because their environment has been asking more from them than it is returning to them. And that is worth paying attention to. If there's a room that came to mind while I was saying this, comment the room in the comments. Because that matters. That tells you something. It tells you where your environment may be draining you the fastest. And that is why I care so much about home. Not because I think a home should be perfect. Not because I think women should be performing domestic pageantry. And certainly not because I think beauty only matters if it impresses somebody else. I care because the home shapes the woman living inside of it. It can support her, or it can slowly deplete her. It can give her traction, or it could keep pulling her towards irritation, avoidance, overwhelm, and mental drag. That is why usable systems matter, not just pretty ones, usable ones. Systems that reduce friction, systems that make it easier to reset. Systems that help a home function better. Systems that make the space feel more supportive, not more demanding. Because when a home asks less of you, you have more of yourself available inside it. You think more clearly, you move more calmly. You feel less haunted by your own environment and more patient, more traction, more access to the version of yourself that you are trying to be. A home that keeps signaling incompletion keeps pulling a woman into reaction mode. But a home that supports her can return her to herself. And that matters because sometimes the goal is not a perfect home. Sometimes the goal is a home that stops pulling the worst version of you forward. A home that makes it easier to begin and easier to follow through, easier to breathe, and easier to feel a little more like yourself again. This is part of what Craft Cottage cares about, not just aesthetics for show, not just organizing to perform competence, but creating spaces, systems, and rhythms that support the woman living there. Because the home affects the self, and the self deserves a space that gives something back.